The hospital hallway smelled like antiseptic and desperation. Emma Parker sat on the hard plastic chair outside the ICU, her anatomy textbook open on her lap, though she hadn't turned a page in 20 minutes. Her younger sister Lily was dying, and no amount of studying could fix that. "Miss Parker," a nurse approached with a clipboard, "the transplant coordinator needs to speak with you." Emma followed her into a small office where Dr. Stevens waited, his expression carefully neutral in that way doctors had when delivering bad news. "We found a match," he said, and Emma's heart leaped. "A liver became available. Lily is at the top of the transplant list." "That's wonderful. When can we?" "The surgery and post-operative care will cost approximately $350,000. Your insurance will cover about 40%. You'll need to provide payment arrangements for the remainder before we can proceed." The hope drained from Emma's body like someone had pulled a plug. $200,000. She was a third-year med student with $70,000 in existing student loans and maybe $800 in her checking account. "How long do I have to come up with the money?" 72 hours. After that, we move to the next person on the list." Dr. Stevens softened slightly. "I'm sorry, I know this is impossible, but those are the hospital's policies." Emma walked back to Lily's room in a daze. Her sister was only 19, a sophomore in college before the liver disease had stolen her future. Their parents had died in a car accident 3 years ago, leaving Emma as Lily's only family, her only hope. And Emma had 72 hours to find $200,000 or watch her sister die. She tried everything, called every bank, every loan company, every charity organization, applied for grants, started a crowdfunding campaign, begged her wealthy classmates for help. By the end of day 2, she'd raised $11,000, nowhere near enough. Emma was sitting in the hospital cafeteria, running on no sleep and pure desperation, when someone sat down across from her. "You look like you're about to murder someone or burst into tears, possibly both." Emma looked up to find a woman in an expensive suit, perfectly styled blonde hair, and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She looked vaguely familiar, but Emma's exhausted brain couldn't place her. "Sorry, do I know you?" "Rachel Montgomery. I'm a hospital board member, also a friend of the Parker family, though it's been years since we've seen each other. I heard about Lily's situation." Emma's parents had moved in wealthy circles before they died, before the accident revealed they'd been drowning in debt. Emma had been too young to remember most of their social connections. "Then you know I'm running out of time," Emma said flatly. "Unless you're here to write me a check for $200,000, I don't have time for small talk. Actually, I might know someone who can help, though the arrangement would be unusual." Emma's pulse quickened. "I'll do anything, anything legal anyway. My nephew needs a wife, temporarily. It's complicated, but there's a substantial inheritance at stake that requires him to be married before his 30th birthday. He's been looking for someone trustworthy to enter a contractual marriage, someone who needs money and won't get emotionally attached." Rachel studied her. "You need money. He needs a wife. It could be mutually beneficial." "You're suggesting I marry a stranger for money?" "I'm suggesting a business arrangement. 1 year of marriage, all expenses paid, plus enough money to cover Lily's surgery and your medical school tuition. In exchange, you play the role of devoted wife in public. After the year is up, you divorce quietly and go your separate ways." It sounded insane, like something from a movie, not real life. But Emma thought about Lily hooked up to machines, about the 72-hour deadline, about the complete lack of other options. "Who is this nephew?" "Nathaniel Montgomery. He runs Montgomery Industries. You may have seen him in the business section." Emma had seen him. Everyone had. Nathaniel Montgomery was famous for being brilliant, ruthless, and completely cold. The media called him the Ice King of corporate America. He was 30 years old, devastatingly handsome, and had a reputation for destroying anyone who crossed him. Why would someone like him need to hire a wife? He could have anyone. That's the problem. Anyone he dates either wants his money or wants to change him. The inheritance clause was his late grandmother's attempt to force him into marriage to soften him. She thought love would make him human. Rachel's smile was sharp. He has no interest in love, just the inheritance. $3 billion if he marries before his birthday, nothing if he doesn't. His birthday is soon. In 34 days. He's been interviewing candidates for weeks, but no one been suitable. Too clingy, too gold-digging, too ambitious. Rachel leaned forward. You're perfect. You're smart, self-sufficient, focused on your career and your sister. You won't fall for him or try to extend the arrangement. And you're desperate enough to actually go through with it. You make it sound so appealing. I'm being honest. Nathaniel isn't easy. He's demanding, controlling, and expects perfection. But he honors his contracts. If you agree to this, he'll pay for everything immediately. Lily's surgery, your tuition, a generous living allowance. All you have to do is marry him, live in his house for 1 year, and play the perfect wife in public. $200,000. Lily's life. Her own education secured. All for 1 year of pretending to love a man who didn't believe in love. I want to meet him first, Emma said. He's waiting upstairs, conference room 3. Of course he was. This whole thing was clearly orchestrated. Emma should have been angry about the manipulation, but she was too desperate to care. She found Nathaniel Montgomery standing by the window of the conference room, his back to the door. Even from behind he was imposing. Tall, broad-shouldered, perfectly tailored suit that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe. He turned when she entered, and Emma understood why tabloids were obsessed with him. He was beautiful in an almost painful way. Sharp cheekbones, strong jaw, dark hair styled precisely, and eyes so blue they were almost unnatural. But there was no warmth in those eyes. They assessed her like she was a balance sheet. Emma Parker, he said, not a question. 25 years old, third-year med student at Columbia, top of your class despite working 2 jobs. Parents deceased, 1 younger sister with acute liver failure. Currently $203,000 in debt between student loans and medical bills. No romantic relationships. No time for social life. Is that accurate? You had me investigated. I investigate all potential business partners. Sit down. It wasn't a request. Emma sat, lifting her chin defiantly. She wouldn't be intimidated by his money or his coldness. My aunt explained the arrangement, he asked. A 1-year marriage contract. You get your inheritance, I get money for my sister's surgery. Simplified but accurate. Here are the terms. He slid a thick document across the table. You'll move into my penthouse immediately after the wedding. We'll maintain separate bedrooms, but we'll need to appear as a married couple in public. That means attending events together, appropriate physical affection when being photographed, and generally convincing my family and the board that this is a real marriage. How much physical affection? Hand-holding, occasional embraces, perhaps light kissing for photos. Nothing more unless you're comfortable. I'm not interested in a physical relationship. Good, neither am I. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, amusement. It was gone too quickly to tell. The contract includes a comprehensive NDA. You can never reveal the true nature of our arrangement. If you do, you forfeit all payments and face legal consequences. I understand. There will be a prenuptial agreement. You have no claim to my assets beyond what's specified in the contract. Upon divorce, you'll receive a final settlement of $1 million, provided you fulfilled all obligations. Emma's breath caught. $1 million on top of everything else. She could pay off her loans, finish medical school debt-free, start her career with actual financial security. What are the obligations? Attend all required events without complaint. Maintain the appearance of a happy marriage. Don't embarrass me publicly. Don't develop real feelings or expect this to become more than a business arrangement. His blue eyes locked onto hers. Can you do that, Emma? Can you pretend to love me for a year and then walk away? She thought about Lily dying in the ICU, about the impossible choice between her sister's life and her own principles, about the fact that this cold, arrogant man was offering her the only lifeline she had. Yes, she said, I can do that. Then we have a deal. He pulled out another document. This is a preliminary agreement. Sign it, and I'll wire the money for your sister's surgery within the hour. We'll finalize the full contract and marry within the week. Within the week, that's necessary. My birthday is in 34 days. We need time to establish the relationship publicly before the inheritance deadline. He handed her a pen. Sign, Emma. Save your sister, or walk away and watch her die on principle. The cruelty of the statement should have made her angry. Instead, it clarified everything. This was a transaction, nothing more. He wasn't pretending to be noble or kind. He was being honest about what this was. Emma signed the document. Nathaniel made a call, speaking briefly to someone about wire transfers and account numbers. 5 minutes later, Emma's phone buzzed with a notification. $210,000 had been deposited into her account. The extra $10,000 is for immediate expenses, Nathaniel said. Go arrange your sister's surgery. I'll have my lawyers draw up the full contract. We'll meet tomorrow to finalize details. That's it. We just made a deal to get married and you're dismissing me. I have meetings. Was there something else? Emma stood, anger finally breaking through her exhausted numbness. You're really as cold as they say, aren't you? I prefer efficient. Emotional discussions waste time. I'm not your employee. I'm going to be your wife. You're going to be my contracted spouse. There's a difference. He turned back to his laptop. The car will take you back to the hospital. I'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Emma wanted to throw something at him. Instead, she left, because Lily was waiting and she finally had the money to save her sister's life. The surgery was scheduled for the next morning. Emma sat in the waiting room for 8 hours while surgeons gave Lily a new liver. When Dr. Stevens finally emerged and said the word successful, Emma collapsed into tears for the first time in 3 days. She spent that night in Lily's recovery room, holding her sister's hand, watching the monitors, grateful beyond words that she was alive. Emma had sold herself to a stranger, agreed to a fake marriage, traded a year of her life for this moment. And she'd do it again without hesitation. The next morning, she met Nathaniel at his lawyer's office to sign the actual contracts. The marriage contract was 47 pages long, covering everything from social media policies to grounds for early termination. The prenuptial agreement was another 30 pages. You should have a lawyer review these, Nathaniel's attorney said. I can't afford a lawyer. I'm paying for everything, Nathaniel interjected. Get a lawyer. I want you to understand exactly what you're agreeing to, no surprises later. So Emma spent 2 days with a lawyer who read every clause, explained every implication, and ultimately advised her that while unusual, the contracts were fair. She signed them in Nathaniel's presence, watched him sign them, and officially became his fiancée. The wedding is Saturday, he announced. Small ceremony, immediate family only. I've arranged for a dress. My assistant will handle all details. I don't get any say in my own wedding. It's not a real wedding. It's a legal formality. Does it matter? It shouldn't matter. This was fake, a business arrangement. But some part of Emma had imagined her wedding day as something special, something meaningful, not a cold transaction to access a dead grandmother's money. Fine, she said, whatever you want. Good, I'll see you Saturday at 2 p.m. The wedding was exactly as cold and transactional as Emma expected. She wore a simple ivory dress Nathaniel's assistant had selected, stood in front of a judge in his private office, and repeated vows that felt like lies even though they were legally binding. Nathaniel's Aunt Rachel was there as a witness, along with his lawyer. No one from Emma's side. Lily was still recovering in the hospital, and Emma hadn't told her the truth. Her sister thought Emma had won some emergency medical grant. "You may kiss the bride," the judge said. Nathaniel leaned in and pressed his lips to hers briefly, mechanically. It was like kissing a statue. When he pulled back, his expression was completely neutral, as if he just signed a business contract, which Emma supposed he had. "Congratulations," Rachel said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Welcome to the family, Emma." They went directly from the courthouse to Nathaniel's penthouse. Emma had seen photos of luxury apartments before, but nothing prepared her for the reality. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, marble floors, modern art that probably cost more than most houses, furniture that looked too perfect to actually sit on. "Your bedroom is down this hall," Nathaniel said, leading her past the massive living room. "En-suite bathroom, walk-in closet. I've had appropriate clothing delivered based on your measurements. If anything doesn't fit, tell my assistant." He opened the door to reveal a bedroom larger than Emma's entire previous apartment. King-sized bed, sitting area, private balcony. The closet was already full of designer clothes, shoes, handbags, everything she might need to look like she belonged in his world. "My bedroom is on the opposite side of the penthouse. We share common areas but maintain separate private spaces. The kitchen is fully stocked, but I usually eat out or have meals delivered. Do whatever you prefer." "Do you always talk like you're giving a corporate presentation?" "I'm being clear about expectations. Would you prefer I be ambiguous?" "I'd prefer you act like a human being occasionally." His jaw tightened slightly, the first crack in his perfect composure. "I'm providing you with everything you need. A home, financial security, the means to save your sister. What more do you want?" "Maybe a conversation. Some acknowledgement that we just got married, even if it's fake." "We signed a contract. We completed a legal procedure. There's nothing to discuss." He checked his watch. "I have work to do. The house manager, Mrs. Chen, will be here tomorrow to go over household details. If you need anything, contact my assistant." He left, and Emma stood alone in her new bedroom, married to a stranger who treated her like an inconvenient business acquisition. The first week was bizarre. Nathaniel left for work before Emma woke up and came home after she'd gone to bed. They crossed paths maybe twice, brief exchanges about logistics. She spent her days at the hospital with Lily, who was recovering beautifully and studying for upcoming exams. The penthouse felt like a museum she was visiting, not a home. On day 8, Nathaniel's assistant called. "Mrs. Montgomery, there's a charity gala tonight. Mr. Montgomery needs you to attend. Car will pick you up at 7. Wear the navy dress, third from the left in your closet." He couldn't tell me this himself. "Mr. Montgomery is in meetings all day. The stylist will arrive at 4 for hair and makeup." This was her life now, being told what to wear, where to go, how to look. Emma wanted to refuse out of spite, but she'd signed a contract. She agreed to this. The gala was at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, full of wealthy people in designer clothes, sipping champagne and pretending to care about art. Nathaniel was waiting in the car when Emma came down, and for the first time since the wedding, he actually looked at her. Really looked at her. "You look appropriate," he said finally. What a romantic compliment. You really know how to make a girl feel special. "I'm not trying to make you feel special. I'm confirming you're adequately dressed for the event." "You're unbelievable." "I'm honest, most people find it refreshing." He handed her a small box. "Wear these." Inside were diamond earrings that probably cost more than a car. Emma put them on silently, fuming. At the gala, Nathaniel transformed. His hand rested on her lower back, guiding her through the crowd. He introduced her as my wife with something that almost resembled warmth. When photographers asked them to pose, he pulled her close, his arm around her waist, smiling like he was actually happy. "You're a good actor," Emma murmured as they moved through the crowd. "So are you. That smile looks almost genuine." "I'm imagining you falling down the stairs. It helps." His lips twitched. Was that almost a smile? It was gone too quickly to tell. They spent 3 hours at the gala, Nathaniel playing the devoted husband perfectly. He brought her champagne, laughed at her comments, kept her close. To everyone watching, they looked like newlyweds genuinely in love. In the car ride home, the mask dropped instantly. Nathaniel went back to checking his phone, the warmth disappearing like it had never existed. "You did well tonight," he said without looking up. "Very convincing." "Thanks, you too. Almost believed you were capable of human emotion." Emotion is inefficient. It clouds judgment and leads to poor decisions. It also makes life worth living. But what do I know? I'm just the woman you hired to play house. He finally looked at her, those blue eyes sharp and assessing. "You agreed to this arrangement. If you're having regrets." "I'm not. My sister is alive because of you. I'm grateful for that. I just think it's sad that you've locked yourself away so completely that you can't even be civil to your own wife." "We're not really married." "Legally we are. We live in the same home. We share a last name. The least you could do is occasionally acknowledge my existence when there aren't cameras around." Nathaniel was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I'll try to have dinner at home tomorrow night, if you'd like company." It was such a small concession, but Emma felt like she'd won something. "I'd like that." The next evening, true to his word, Nathaniel came home at 7. Emma had ordered Thai food, figuring it was safer than trying to cook in his intimidating gourmet kitchen. They sat at the dining table, and for the first time had an actual conversation. "How's your sister recovering?" he asked. "Really well. She'll be discharged next week. I found her an apartment near campus so she can finish her degree." "You're paying for that?" "With the money you're paying me, yes. That was part of the deal. I could have covered her apartment directly." "I don't want you paying for everything. The contract covers my needs. Lily is my responsibility." Something flickered across his face. Respect, interest. "You're very independent for someone who agreed to marry for money." "I married to save my sister's life. There's a difference." Emma met his eyes. "Why did you really agree to this inheritance clause? You could have fought it legally. You have the resources." "My grandmother's will was ironclad. I had lawyers review it. The only way to access the inheritance is to marry before my 30th birthday." "But why? Why would she force that condition?" Nathaniel was quiet, his jaw tight. "Finally, she thought I was too much like my father, cold, focused only on business, incapable of genuine connection. She wanted to force me to let someone in, to learn to care about something other than profit margins." "And are you like your father?" "Apparently. He died alone, alienated from everyone who ever claimed to care about him. My grandmother was convinced I'd end up the same way unless someone intervened. So she tried to bribe you into marriage." "She tried to teach me a lesson. I'm just getting the money while avoiding the emotional complications." Emma studied him, seeing past the cold exterior for the first time. He wasn't just ruthless. He was scared. Scared of vulnerability, of being hurt, of letting anyone close enough to matter. "Your grandmother sounds like she was a smart woman," Emma said quietly. "She was sentimental. It was her weakness. Or maybe it was her strength. Caring about people, wanting them to be happy, that's not weakness. It is when it makes you irrational, when you compromise your judgment for feelings." He stood abruptly. "I have work to finish. Thank you for dinner." He disappeared into his office and Emma sat alone at the table, realizing she'd touched a nerve. Good. Let him be uncomfortable. Let him feel something, even if it was just irritation at her observations. Over the next few weeks, they fell into an unexpected routine. Nathaniel still worked constantly, but he started coming home for dinner a few times a week. They attended events together regularly, playing the perfect couple for cameras and audiences. And slowly, grudgingly, they began learning each other. Emma discovered he drank his coffee black, hated small talk, played piano beautifully when he thought no one was listening. He was brilliant and driven, and occasionally showed glimpses of dry humor that surprised her. Nathaniel learned that Emma was secretly funny, viciously smart, unintimidated by his money or power. She called him out when he was being an ass, challenged his assumptions, and stubbornly maintained her independence despite living in his penthouse. They weren't friends, but they weren't quite strangers anymore either. One evening, Emma was studying at the dining table when Nathaniel came home early, loosening his tie with visible frustration. "Bad day?" she asked. "The board is questioning my judgment. Apparently marrying suddenly raised concerns about my decision-making capacity." "Maybe they're right to be concerned. You did hire a wife." "They don't know that." "Still, marrying someone you barely know after refusing to date anyone for years, that's objectively concerning behavior." He poured himself a scotch and sat across from her. "I needed to meet the inheritance deadline." "You could have actually dated someone, found a real relationship." "I don't want a real relationship. They're messy and complicated and ultimately disappointing." "Speaking from experience." His expression shuddered. "My parents had the perfect society marriage. United two powerful families, looked ideal in photos. Behind closed doors, they couldn't stand each other. My father had affairs, my mother drank herself numb, and I learned that love is a convenient fiction people tell themselves." "That's depressing." "That's reality. People confuse chemistry or convenience with love, commit to forever based on temporary feelings, then act surprised when it falls apart." He took a drink. "At least our arrangement is honest. We both know exactly what this is." "A business transaction." "Exactly. No false promises, no expectations of something that doesn't exist. Clean and efficient." Emma closed her textbook. "You know what I think? I think you're terrified of actually caring about someone. So you've built this whole philosophy about love being fake to justify keeping everyone at arm's length." Amateur psychology. Basic observation. You can't even admit we're becoming friends. "We're not friends, we're contractual partners. We have dinner together, we talk about our days. You asked about Lily's recovery, that's friendship, Nathaniel. It's civil cohabitation." "You're impossible. You're naive." They glared at each other across the table, tension crackling between them. Then Nathaniel's phone rang, breaking the moment. He answered it, his expression shifting to concern. "When is he stable? I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up and stood. "I have to go. My grandfather had a heart attack." "Oh my God, is he okay?" "They don't know yet. He's in surgery." Nathaniel grabbed his jacket, and Emma saw his hands shaking slightly. The first real emotion she'd seen from him, beyond controlled anger or cold efficiency. "I'll come with you," she said, standing. "You don't have to." "I'm your wife, even if it's fake I should be there." She grabbed her coat. "Come on." They drove to the hospital in tense silence. Emma wanted to offer comfort but didn't know how. Nathaniel sat rigid in his seat, jaw clenched, staring out the window. When they arrived, his Aunt Rachel was already there, along with several other family members Emma had met briefly at the wedding. "He's still in surgery," Rachel said. "It was massive. They're not sure if." Her voice broke. Nathaniel pulled her into a brief, awkward hug. "He's tough. He'll make it." But his voice lacked conviction. They waited for 4 hours. Emma sat beside Nathaniel in the uncomfortable waiting room chairs, not touching but present. She watched him slowly unravel, the perfect control slipping as exhaustion and fear took over. Finally, a surgeon emerged. He made it through surgery. The next 48 hours are critical, but he's stable for now. The relief in the room was palpable. Rachel started crying. Other family members hugged each other, and Nathaniel just sat there, staring at his hands. Emma reached over and took his hand. He didn't pull away, just held on tight like she was an anchor in a storm. "He's going to be okay," she whispered. "You don't know that." "No, but I'm choosing to believe it anyway. That's what hope is." He looked at her then, really looked at her, and something shifted in his expression. "Thank you for coming." "Of course, that's what," she stopped herself from saying that's what wives do, because they weren't really married, not in any way that mattered. But Nathaniel finished the sentence anyway. "That's what partners do, even contractual ones." It was the first time he'd acknowledged their connection as anything beyond a business transaction. And sitting there in the hospital waiting room, hands joined, Emma realized with terrifying clarity that she was starting to care about him. Really care. Which was exactly what she'd promised herself wouldn't happen. Nathaniel's grandfather survived the surgery, but his recovery was slow. Over the next 2 weeks, Nathaniel spent every evening at the hospital, and Emma found herself going with him. She'd sit in the waiting room studying while Nathaniel visited, then they'd drive home together in comfortable silence. The experience changed something between them. Nathaniel's walls didn't disappear, but they lowered slightly. He started asking about her day before launching into his own problems. He remembered that she hated mushrooms and stopped ordering them in their takeout. Small things, but they mattered. One evening, Emma was studying in the living room when Nathaniel emerged from his office looking exhausted. It was past midnight, and he'd been working since 6 a.m. "You're going to burn out," she said, closing her laptop. "I'm fine." "You look terrible. When's the last time you slept more than 4 hours?" "Sleep is inefficient." "Sleep is necessary. You're human, Nathaniel, even if you try to pretend otherwise." She stood and walked to where he was pouring himself another coffee. "Give me that." "Excuse me." "The coffee, give it to me. You've had enough caffeine to kill a small horse." She took the cup from his hand and poured it down the sink. "Go to bed." "You can't tell me what to do." "I'm your wife. I'm absolutely telling you what to do. You're exhausted and stressed about your grandfather and working yourself to death. It's not healthy." "Since when do you care about my health?" The question hung between them, loaded with meaning. Since when did she care? When had this stopped being just a contract and started feeling real? "Since we became friends," Emma said quietly. "Whether you want to admit it or not, that's what we are. And friends don't let friends self-destruct." Nathaniel studied her face, and for once his expression was unguarded, tired and vulnerable and almost soft. "I don't know how to be friends with someone." "Lucky for you, I'm a quick teacher. Step 1, go to sleep. We'll work on step 2 tomorrow." He surprised her by actually listening. He went to his room without argument, and Emma heard his door close. She stood in the kitchen feeling oddly proud of herself for breaking through his armor, even just a little. The next morning, Nathaniel emerged looking more rested than she'd seen him in weeks. He poured coffee and sat across from her at breakfast, which was unusual. They normally ate separately. "Thank you," he said. "For last night, you were right, I needed sleep. See, I'm occasionally useful for more than playing dress-up at your events." "You're always useful. Your observations about the Henderson merger last week were insightful. I used them in my presentation to the board." Emma blinked. "You did. You have a good strategic mind. You see angles others miss. It's impressive." It was possibly the nicest thing he'd ever said to her. Emma felt warmth spreading through her chest, dangerous and unwelcome. She couldn't let compliments from him affect her like this. This was still temporary, still fake. "Well, I'm glad my expensive education is good for something," she said lightly. "Speaking of which, when are your exams?" "Next month." "Why?" "I'll clear my schedule for those weeks. You'll need time to study without social obligations." "You don't have to do that." "Yes, I do. Your education matters. It's why you agreed to this arrangement in the first place." He finished his coffee and stood. "I have meetings, but Emma, thank you for caring, even when I make it difficult." He left before she could respond, and Emma sat at the table feeling her carefully constructed walls crumbling. This wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't supposed to start actually caring about Nathaniel Montgomery. He'd been clear from the beginning that this was temporary, that emotions had no place in their arrangement. But her stupid heart wasn't listening to logic. 2 days later, they attended a museum fundraiser together. By now, Emma had gotten good at playing the adoring wife. She knew how to angle her body toward Nathaniel, how to laugh at his comments, how to look at him like he was the only person in the room. What scared her was how much of it had stopped being an act. "You two seem very happy," an older woman commented during cocktail hour. "How did you meet?" "Hospital cafeteria," Emma said, sticking to their rehearsed story. "I was having the worst day and Nathaniel bought me coffee. We started talking and couldn't stop." "Love at first sight." "Something like that." Emma glanced at Nathaniel, who was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. After the woman moved away, Nathaniel leaned in close. "You're getting very good at lying." "Is it lying if I almost believe it myself?" She meant it as a joke, but Nathaniel's expression turned serious. "Don't do that." "Do what?" "Confuse performance with reality. This is temporary, Emma. In 6 months we'll divorce and move on. Don't forget that." The reminder stung more than it should have. "I know what this is, Nathaniel. You don't need to keep reminding me." "I think I do. You're looking at me differently lately, like I'm someone worth caring about." "Maybe you are." "I'm not. I'm exactly who I told you I was on day one. Cold, controlling, emotionally unavailable. Don't project something onto me that isn't there." "What if it is there? What if you're more than you pretend to be?" "Then you're seeing what you want to see, not reality." He stepped back, putting physical distance between them. "We should circulate separately for a while. We've been photographed enough together." He walked away, leaving Emma standing alone feeling foolish and exposed. He was right, of course. She was developing feelings that had no place in their arrangement. She needed to protect herself before she got hurt. That night Emma couldn't sleep. She kept replaying Nathaniel's warning, the coldness in his voice when he reminded her this was temporary. Around 2 a.m., she gave up and went to the kitchen for tea. She found Nathaniel already there, standing by the windows overlooking the city, a glass of scotch in his hand. "Can't sleep either?" she asked. "Thinking about my grandfather. He's being discharged tomorrow, but he's not the same. The heart attack aged him 10 years overnight." Emma moved to stand beside him. "He's alive, that's what matters." "Is it? He can barely walk, can't work. Everything that defined him is gone. He told me today he wishes he'd died on the operating table rather than face this diminished existence." "That's the fear talking. Give him time to adjust." "What if he's right? What if there comes a point where survival isn't worth it anymore?" Emma had never heard Nathaniel speak like this. Vulnerable, uncertain, almost philosophical. She wanted to comfort him but didn't know how without crossing boundaries. "Your grandfather has people who love him," she said quietly. "Your Aunt Rachel, your family, that's worth surviving for. Connection, love, family. Those things matter more than independence or power." "You really believe that?" "I do. When Lily was dying, I would have given anything to save her. Sold my soul, destroyed my future, anything. Because loving someone means their life matters more than your own comfort." Nathaniel looked at her and something in his expression cracked open. Is that what you did? Sold your soul by marrying me? I made a choice, a hard one but mine. She met his eyes. And honestly, it's not been as terrible as I expected. You're difficult and emotionally stunted, but you're also brilliant and occasionally almost kind. You've kept every promise, treated me with respect even when we disagree. That's more than a lot of real marriages have. Don't do that, he said again, but his voice was softer this time. Don't make this into something it's not. What am I making it into? Something that could hurt you when it ends. Because it will end, Emma. 6 months from now, we'll sign divorce papers and you'll go back to your life. I don't want you to regret this arrangement because you confused gratitude with something deeper. You're assuming I'm confused. What if I'm not? What if I see you clearly and I'm choosing to care about you anyway? Then you're making a mistake. He set down his glass and moved closer. I'm not capable of giving you what you want. I don't know how to love someone. My grandfather's condition has just reminded me of that. He has people surrounding him, begging him to fight, and I can barely feel anything beyond clinical concern about the business implications of his recovery. You care more than you think. You're just scared to admit it. I'm not scared, I'm realistic. Emotions are weakness. They cloud judgment and lead to pain. They also lead to joy and connection, and everything that makes life worth living. Not for me. Emma felt frustration rising. Why are you fighting this so hard? Would it really be so terrible to admit we've become friends, that you actually enjoy my company? Yes, because friends become attached, and attachment leads to expectations I can't meet. I'm not asking you to meet any expectations. I'm just asking you to be honest about what's happening between us. Nothing is happening between us. We're fulfilling a contract. Then, why do you come home for dinner now when you used to avoid me? Why do you ask about my day and remember things I've told you? Why did you hold my hand at the hospital? Because it was convenient, because you were there. It didn't mean anything. The lie was so obvious it was almost insulting. Emma moved closer, challenging him. Then kiss me right now, like you mean it. Prove that you feel nothing. That's not part of our arrangement. We've kissed dozens of times for photos, but those were performances. I'm asking for something real. If you truly feel nothing, it should be easy. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. This is a bad idea. Probably, but I need to know if I'm imagining this connection or if you feel it too. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Emma could see the conflict in his eyes, the war between his carefully constructed walls and something else, something human and raw and terrified. Then he kissed her. It was nothing like their staged kisses for cameras. This was desperate and deep and real. His hands cupped her face, her fingers gripped his shirt, and the world narrowed to just this moment. Emma felt everything she'd been trying to deny flooding through her, want and need, and the terrifying realization that she was falling in love with him. When Nathaniel pulled away, he looked shaken. That was a mistake. Was it? Because it felt pretty real to me. It was chemistry, physical attraction. It doesn't mean anything. You keep saying that, but I think you're lying to me and to yourself. Emma, don't do this. Don't make this complicated. It's already complicated. We live together, we spend every day together, we've seen each other at our worst. That's not a business arrangement anymore. That's a relationship. It's a contractual obligation. Keep telling yourself that. Emma stepped back, hurt and angry and exhausted. I'm going to bed. Enjoy lying to yourself about what just happened. She left him standing in the kitchen, and by the time she reached her room, tears were falling. She'd been stupid to push him, stupid to demand honesty, stupid to fall for a man who'd warned her from the beginning he was incapable of loving anyone. Emma cried herself to sleep, mourning something she'd never actually had. The next morning, She woke to find a note slipped under her door. You were right, I do care about you. It terrifies me. But you deserve honesty, and the honest truth is that I don't know how to be what you need. I don't know how to let someone in without eventually destroying what we have. My parents taught me that love turns into resentment, that caring about someone gives them power to hurt you. I've built my entire life around avoiding that pain. You're asking me to tear down walls that have protected me for 30 years, and I don't know if I can. But I'll try. If you're patient with me, I'll try. N. Emma read the note 3 times, her heart pounding. It wasn't a declaration of love. It wasn't even a promise of anything beyond trying. But for Nathaniel Montgomery, admitting fear and vulnerability was monumental. She found him in his office, working at his desk like he hadn't just confessed something profound. He looked up when she entered, his expression carefully neutral. I got your note, Emma said. And I'm willing to be patient. But Nathaniel, you have to actually try. Not just say you will, but actually work at letting me in. I don't know how. Then we'll figure it out together. Starting with step 3 of friendship, vulnerability. Tell me something real, something you've never told anyone. He was quiet for so long Emma thought he'd refuse. Then, I'm afraid I'm going to end up like my father, successful and powerful and completely alone. He died in his office at his desk, working on a merger that didn't matter. No one found him for 6 hours. That's what I think about when I can't sleep, that I'm going to die alone surrounded by meaningless achievements. Emma's heart broke for him. Then don't let that happen. Let people in, starting with me. What if I hurt you? What if you do? What if we both take a chance and something beautiful comes from it? Nathaniel stood and moved around his desk. I'm not good at this, at feelings and vulnerability and all the things normal people do naturally. I'm not asking you to be good at it, I'm asking you to try. She took his hand. We have 4 months left on our contract. Let's spend them actually getting to know each other, really know each other. And when the time comes to decide what happens next, we'll make that choice together. You're suggesting we make this real. I'm suggesting we stop pretending it's fake. Over the next 3 months, everything changed. Nathaniel kept his promise to try. It was awkward and halting at first. He'd spent so long protecting himself that vulnerability felt like removing armor in the middle of a battlefield. But slowly, carefully, he began letting Emma see the real him. They started having breakfast together every morning, not working or reading their phones, but actually talking. Nathaniel told her about growing up in a cold mansion, where achievement was the only currency that mattered, about watching his parents' marriage deteriorate into bitter silence, about building his company to prove he was more than his father's disappointment. Emma shared her own fears, about failing medical school, about losing Lily, about never being good enough, about how terrifying it was to care about someone who'd explicitly warned her not to. I'm still terrible at this, Nathaniel said one morning after fumbling through a conversation about his feelings. You're getting better. Last month you couldn't even admit you had feelings. Now you're attempting to articulate them. That's progress. It's exhausting. Welcome to being human. It's supposed to be exhausting. He smiled, an actual genuine smile that transformed his entire face. Emma's heart stuttered. These smiles were becoming more frequent, and each one made her fall harder. They went on real dates now. Not staged appearances for photographers, but genuine evenings out. Nathaniel took her to a tiny jazz club he loved, where they sat in the back and just listened to music. Emma dragged him to a botanical garden and made him identify plants until he admitted he was actually enjoying himself. They cooked dinner together and burned most of it, laughing until their sides hurt. I don't know when this stopped being pretend, Nathaniel admitted one evening as they cleaned up their kitchen disaster. Maybe it was never really pretend. Maybe we were just too scared to call it what it was. And what is it? Emma met his eyes. I think you know. He did know. She could see it in the way he looked at her now, like she was something precious and terrifying, like he was standing on the edge of a cliff, trying to decide whether to jump. The shift in their relationship didn't go unnoticed. Rachel commented on how happy Nathaniel seemed. His grandfather, now recovered enough to visit, pulled Emma aside at a family dinner. "I don't know what you've done to my grandson, but he's different, softer, more human. He's the same person he always was. He's just letting people see it now. Because of you, he cares about you, really cares. I haven't seen him care about anyone since he was a boy." Emma wanted to ask what had happened to make Nathaniel so closed off, but it felt like a violation to discuss him behind his back. She'd wait until he was ready to tell her himself. That opportunity came 2 weeks later. They were lying in bed, Nathaniel's bed, because somewhere along the way they'd stopped sleeping separately. Nothing physical had happened beyond sleeping curled together, but the intimacy of it was profound. "My father told me I was a disappointment when I was 12, Nathaniel said into the darkness. "I'd come home excited about winning a science competition, and he said winners don't celebrate small achievements, that I was settling for mediocrity. I spent the next 18 years trying to prove him wrong, building a bigger company, making more money, achieving more than he ever did. And when he died, I realized he'd never once told me he was proud, never once said he loved me." Emma held him tighter. "That wasn't your failure, that was his. I know that intellectually, but emotionally, I still feel like that 12-year-old boy desperate for approval he'll never get. And I'm terrified of becoming him, of being so focused on achievement that I miss what actually matters." "You won't become him because you're choosing differently. You're letting people in." "I'm letting you in. That's not the same thing." "It's a start." Nathaniel turned to face her, his blue eyes serious in the dim light. "Emma, our contract expires in 6 weeks." Her stomach dropped. She'd been trying not to think about the deadline, about the approaching end of their arrangement. "I know. I don't want it to end. I don't want you to leave." "Then I won't leave." "It's not that simple. You agreed to a 1-year marriage. You've fulfilled your obligations. You deserve your freedom." "What if I don't want freedom? What if I want this, us?" "Are you sure? Or are you confusing gratitude with something else? I paid for your sister's surgery, supported your education. That creates a debt that might feel like love." Emma sat up, frustrated. "Do you really think I'm that shallow, that I can't tell the difference between gratitude and love?" "I think you're human, and humans are complicated." "You want to know what I think? I think you're looking for an excuse to push me away because you're terrified this is real. Because if it's real, you might get hurt. And you'd rather end things on your terms than risk me leaving later." Nathaniel sat up too, his expression guarded. "Maybe you're right. Maybe I am scared. These past months with you have been the happiest of my life, and that terrifies me. Because happiness can be taken away. People leave or die or stop loving you. And I don't know if I can survive that kind of loss. So you'd rather lose me now, while you still have control. That's a terrible plan, Nathaniel." "It's a safe plan." "The coward's plan, and you're not a coward." Emma took his face in her hands, forcing him to look at her. "I love you, not because you paid for my sister's surgery, not because you've supported me or given me security. I love you because you're brilliant and infuriating and secretly kind. Because you play piano at midnight when you think no one's listening. Because you remembered I hate mushrooms. Because you're trying so hard to be vulnerable even though it terrifies you. I love you for you, Nathaniel. The real you, not the Ice King facade you show the world." "Emma." "I'm not done. I know you're scared. I'm scared too, but I'd rather be scared together than safe alone. So here's what's going to happen. When our contract expires, we're not getting divorced. We're going to renegotiate. Turn this fake marriage into a real one. And yes, it might not work. We might fight and struggle and have to work at it every single day. But it'll be real, and that's worth the risk." Nathaniel stared at her, and Emma watched emotions flicker across his face. Fear, hope, longing, terror. Finally, he pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. "I love you too," he whispered. "God help me, I love you so much it scares me senseless. I don't know how to do this, how to be someone's partner, how to let myself need someone. But I want to learn. I want to try, with you." Emma pulled back to look at him. "You mean it? We're really doing this. We're really doing this. No more contract, no more expiration date, just us figuring it out together." She kissed him, and it was like coming home, like everything she'd been searching for without knowing it. When they finally broke apart, both were crying and laughing at the same time. "We're going to have to tell people," Emma said. "Your family will have questions. Let them question. I don't care what anyone thinks anymore. I just care about you. Who are you, and what have you done with Nathaniel Montgomery? You broke him, now you're stuck with the pieces." "I like the pieces. They're more interesting than the facade." They spent the rest of the night talking about their future. Real plans, not contractual obligations. Nathaniel wanted Emma to finish medical school without financial stress. Emma wanted Nathaniel to actually take a vacation for the first time in his adult life. They talked about staying in the penthouse or finding a place that felt more like theirs, about how to blend their lives authentically instead of performing for audiences. "I want to renew our vows," Nathaniel said as dawn broke over the city. "Do it properly this time, with your sister there, with people we actually care about. Real vows that we actually mean." "You want another wedding." "I want a real wedding. The first one was a legal transaction. This one would be a celebration of something we built together." Emma's eyes filled with tears again. "You're really not the same man I married a year ago." "No, that man was half alive, going through motions, protecting himself from everything including happiness. You changed me, Emma. You made me want to be better. You did that yourself. I just gave you a reason to try." 6 weeks later, on what would have been their divorce date, they stood in the same botanical garden where Emma had dragged Nathaniel months earlier. This time, Lily was there, healthy and vibrant, crying happy tears. Rachel was there, looking smug about the whole situation. Nathaniel's grandfather attended, stronger now, beaming with pride. They'd written their own vows, real ones. "Emma," Nathaniel said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes, "a year ago you walked into my life out of desperation, and I thought I was hearing a solution to a problem. Instead, I found the person who makes me want to be human instead of perfect, who teaches me that vulnerability is strength, that love is worth the risk, that sometimes the best things in life are the ones you never planned for. I promise to keep trying, keep growing, keep letting you in even when it scares me. I promise to be your partner in every sense of the word. I promise to love you, not because a contract says I should, but because I can't imagine not loving you." Emma was crying before she started her own vows. "Nathaniel, I married you to save my sister. I stayed because you made me laugh. I fell in love because underneath your Ice King exterior is the warmest heart I've ever known. You've supported my dreams, celebrated my successes, held me through my fears. You've shown me that love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up every day and choosing each other. I promise to be patient when you struggle with vulnerability. I promise to call you out when you're being impossible. I promise to love every version of you, even the ones you think are unlovable, because you're not. You never were." When they kissed this time, it wasn't for cameras or contracts. It was for them, for the future they'd built from the strangest beginning, for the love that had grown in the spaces between obligation and choice. At the reception afterward, Lily pulled Emma aside. "I can't believe this started as a fake marriage for money." "Neither can I, but it turns out sometimes the wrong reasons lead to the right person. Are you happy, really happy?" Emma looked across the room where Nathaniel was attempting small talk with guests, still awkward at social situations but trying for her sake. He caught her eye and smiled, that genuine smile that transformed his whole face, and Emma felt her heart expand. I'm really happy, probably happier than I have any right to be. You have every right. You saved my life, then you saved his. That's pretty heroic. I didn't save him, we saved each other. That night back at the penthouse, their penthouse now, Nathaniel found Emma on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. Thinking about the past year, he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Thinking about how improbable this all is. How we started as strangers in a business transaction and ended up here. Best investment I ever made. I was not an investment. I was a hired actress in your elaborate scheme. You were a miracle I didn't deserve. He turned her to face him. I spent my whole life building walls to protect myself from feeling anything, and then you walked into my life and demolished every single one. You made me believe that love isn't weakness, that opening your heart is the bravest thing you can do. You made me believe that people can change, that someone who seems cold and unreachable might just be protecting a heart that's been hurt too many times. We're quite the pair. We really are. Emma reached up and kissed him softly. Thank you for taking a chance on me, even if it was initially for the wrong reasons. There's no such thing as wrong reasons when they lead to the right ending. He kissed her back, deeper this time. I love you, Emma Montgomery, contractually and actually and forever. I love you too, even when you're impossible. Especially when I'm impossible. They stood on the balcony as the city sparkled below them, two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely circumstances. Who started with a contract and built a life. Who discovered that sometimes the best love stories begin with the words, I have a business proposition for you. A year ago, Emma had been desperate and broke, willing to do anything to save her sister. She agreed to marry a stranger, live a lie, and walk away when it was over. Instead, she'd found home. She'd found love. She'd found herself in the last place she ever expected, in the arms of a man who'd warned her not to fall for him, then fell first himself. Sometimes the contract bride got more than she bargained for. Sometimes she got everything.